Hello and welcome back to Homegrown Health, the show that helps you take your health back into your own hands. I'm Chris, and with me as always, my wife Jen. Today, we're going to be looking at greens. This show is going to be packed full of information, knowledge, and facts. We're going to cover from Popeye spinach in a can to fresh kale, smoothies, juices, powders, and then move on to pills and do the pharmacy and check in with the sprouts.
Right. So to start it off, most Americans don't get nearly enough greens in their day-to-day diet. There's an overwhelming amount of studies on the health benefits of greens and how they affect your body, from reduced inflammation to increase in energy and reduction of illnesses and a truckload of other things that they're good for. And to cram all this in a half an hour is going to be kind of tight, but we're going to do the best we can to give you an overall view of it.
So when we mention greens, we talk about greens, usually you just jump right onto lettuce and okay, I've got lettuce down and I've seen that before and then those are the greens. But we're also talking about kale, spinach, broccoli, chard falls into that category.
Right.
There's mustard greens, even all the way up to dandelion greens, which you normally don't think about. Everybody just puts them off as weeds now, but they used to be a very big staple of greens. Collard and mustard, I know, are found all over too. So this is the reason why these greens are so important as well is that they are a clean, ready-to-use source of protein for us. We talked about this or hinted about this on the last show. The amino acids that make up our protein that our body wants are lying in there, but they're in a liquid form. They're easier for us to digest and to readily get into our system, so that way we don't spend the energy digesting these and breaking these all back down. We use that energy for moving.
Right, so the reason we get that quick boost of energy is actually the chlorophyll that's in these greens. That's what actually makes greens greens. That's the way of the plant taking the sun's light and turning it into its own food source and sugars. So the chlorophyll is actually really close to our own makeup of our blood, and that's why it gives us such an energy boost. So the main element in our blood is iron. The main element in chlorophyll is magnesium. Those are the only two different things between these two elements. So as soon as these greens hit your bloodstream, it is so alike that what it does is it neutralizes any free radicals or any of the bad things floating around in your blood,
Which
and it'll
helps,
clean it out.
Helps aging, helps with illnesses and everything. So when your body gets an overabundance of oxygen, or you have an oxygen-rich system, the bacteria and things that would normally cling on or cause sickness and illness, they can't survive in that system. So it gets pushed out. So this is the added icing to the cake, if you will, of a full balanced diet. And then you pack in your greens at the end, and you get all the trace elements and minerals and everything, plus the oxygen in your system. And this is what keeps you from getting sick once or twice a year. This keeps you at your optimum health.
Right. So everything that he's talking about when we eat these greens and what it does for our system is it makes your body more alkaline. And if you've ever heard, there's two differences in your body's chemistry. You're either acidic or you're alkaline. Now, in acidic environments, that's where diseases and illnesses thrive. They get a foothold in there, and they just love that the stomach acids and the disruptive things that are going on when you're acidic. So the acidic foods are things like prepackaged foods, milk, cheese, chips, anything with a lot of fats, sugars, and oils to them, which everybody knows is bad, but of course they taste so good. But they actually do harm our bodies inside.
So when you were talking about, again, you were talking about building up of acid and being acidic and everything. You have acid that builds up on your muscles, lactic acid. So that is what kind of gives you the cramps. If you've ever woken up at night and your calf is cramping, your arm's cramping, maybe your back, that's the lactic acid buildup because we don't cleanse and clean out our bodies maybe the way that we should or take care of them. We also mentioned the last show, and I know we've already talked about it this show, about inflammation. Mm-hmm. And this isn't one of those things that just gets thrown into a pool of things that happen to our bodies that, okay, well, I get headaches and I have inflammation and then this and I take a pill for it. We need to understand inflammation as the joint pain that we have when at night after you're done working, you had a hard day's worth of work, or you're up on your legs all day, you're running around, your knees get to hurting, your ankles get swollen up, that's inflammation in our joints.
Yeah, it's kind of like the analogy that Chris used before. When you look at your body like you look at your vehicle, I totally lost my train of thought. What
Did
were
you
saying?
really?
I know.
All right, well, we'll move right along.
Oh, right, the inflammation. That's what we were at. The inflammation and everything. That's kind of like when you're in your car and the light comes on and it says check engine. All of these aches and pains are actually little signals and signs from your body telling you that, hey, there's something going on here, and it's like a red alert for you to stop and really look at it. So again, the key to health and vitality is all in the prevention before this happens.
Right. I think you picked that up pretty well.
Thank you.
Right? So now we're starting to see the health benefits of the greens, maybe how the chlorophyll moves through our body, how it's easily picked up by our bloodstream, puts oxygen in there, gets rid of the inflammation, starts helping getting rid of the pain, keeps us protected against sickness and illness, right?
Right, yeah. So basically what we want to do is we want to try to incorporate as many of these greens and fresh vegetables and fruits into our diet. So we're looking at like a 70 to 80% fresh fruits and vegetables for your diet, and the rest can be, your chips and crackers, and just try to lay light on those things. So of course the best way to incorporate all this is by adding it just in your everyday meals. Right. Throwing fresh on the top, eating more salads if that's what you like, or throwing some greens on your pizza. But so what we're going to go over is how to get the most greens into your body the most efficient way. So we'll start off with juicing.
Right.
Do you want to start?
Yes, actually I do.
Okay.
This was, this was one of the bigger things that we found through our journeys over the last 6 years in health, and relooking at how our bodies take in food or take in nutrients, and throwing all labels and stipulations out the window of we were this or we were that, or have to stick to this certain diet or lifestyle. This is what we found was the most healing, the most effective way to get everything that we needed into our bodies every day, right? So the juicing, what is juicing?
So juicing is pretty much what it sounds like.
Right.
You get a juicing machine, you can throw anything in there, and it's just going to extract all of the pulp and the fibers away from that fruit. And so what you're left with is all the juice, the nutrients, the minerals. So it's a very concentrated high dose of those nutrients that your body is craving. So it's actually the best way to kind of get that punch of energy and those nutrients that your body has been lacking.
So this was the other thing that we found out about juicing. Originally, when we started, we weren't. This was quite a while ago. We weren't switching over to all organic, and we were kind of in the midst of figuring everything out, and stumbled upon some people that knew what they were talking about and helped us through it. And we found out through them, organic is a must when you're juicing. We hinted on that in the last show about having a show on organic and explaining that a little more. Understand that the pesticides and the herbicides that they use on the plants that you would want to juice, they stay in the juice. They're not removed with the fiber or the pulp. It stays in the juice. So you're going to have a higher concentration of vitamins and minerals, yes, but then you'll also have a concentration of whatever chemicals they used on there. And it's harder for your system to fight off such a bombardment of pesticide if you're going to be juicing that, right? So we want to stick with locally grown, as local as you can, and organic, and it doesn't get any more local than right outside your door, remember.
Yeah, and even if you're in a small apartment or don't really have a big yard, you can even do like a bucket garden, which I've been researching. You just take a big 5-gallon bucket and put your dirt in there, and you would be amazed at the variety that you can actually grow out of just this tiny little space. And another analogy I like to tell people, or actually show people, I wish I had it with me, is if you've ever seen the colored carnations at the stores that are blue, purple, pink, not the natural colors, what they do is they actually cut those flowers, they stick them down into water with food coloring in it. And if you want to think of that like the pesticides that they spray on the soil, what happens to that white carnation is that everything gets sucked up through the stem and then is embedded in the actual flower. So you can't wash it off as much as you try. It's actually in the structure of the fruit or the vegetable that you're trying to eat.
Right, that's actually a really good analogy to use with kids as well, getting your kids to understand maybe how pesticides or organics work. It's a really good visual way, and it's really fun for them. They get to play with flowers and food coloring and everything. That was really nice when we saw it. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, before we get off of the juicing, because we have a lot more to cover, I did want to throw some information out there for anybody that's actually interested in juicing and seeing all of the healing benefits that it can provide you. I strongly recommend you go onto YouTube and check out our good friend, Dave Conrarity. He's known as Dave the Raw Food Trucker. And his ailments that he had were staggering. He was way overweight. He had cancer at one point and diabetes and a number of things. And he healed himself completely through juicing greens. But like I said, that's a huge category, but please go online and check that out if you do have the internet.
This was a personal story, and he claims healing himself and everything. We don't want anybody to assume that this is, the way to go to jump off all your stuff. But he did heal. In his own words, he healed his own cancer, he healed his own diabetes, he had high cholesterol, he was massively overweight, and you'll see the pictures if you go on his website. He did an amazing job, and he's been a big inspiration for us.
Yeah. Okay, so to move on to the next one, we're going to go on to smoothies, which is probably the best and most delicious way. Juicing is a little bit more pricey because you're taking a large quantity of fruits and vegetables and juicing them down.
Right.
So it gets a little pricey. So for a more cost-effective but still get the same kick to your system that you need is to go for smoothies, which is just fruits and vegetables that are partly frozen and blended up with some water. Go ahead.
Infomercials and whatnot, I'm sure somebody at some point in time that's watching this has seen the Bullet or another blender that already has the serving cups with them, and it blends it up and everything. And that's just about what we're talking about. The smoothie is probably the best way to incorporate kids or other family members into it because you have fruits and vegetables that go along with it. You can, I don't want to say hide greens in there, but you can kind of sneak them in to where there's not going to be a whole lot of fuss because it's bananas and it's oranges and strawberries and it's sweet, and then you put the greens in or maybe some nuts at the end, or maybe you're using green powders in your smoothies in place of it. However you're going about it, it's a really, really good way of getting everybody involved with it.
Yeah. And the reason why smoothies and juice top actually just eating the greens themselves is because that's really important. The greens, their plant cell structure needs to be broken down so that you can actually access the nutrients inside. When you normally eat a salad, you don't actually chew it all the way, and so you swallow a big portion of it, which just gets passed through your system. So by rupturing those membranes, you're actually extracting and getting more out of each plant that you digest.
Right, and that's not saying there's anything wrong with, there's obviously not anything wrong with just eating greens the way they are and cutting them up and everything. Again, this is talking about how do you maximize your green intake? How do you get that rainbow effect from your greens? Because there's so much in them you don't want to be missing out on, especially once you move up the ladder, and we're going to be getting to, we start talking about superfoods. We start going in through kale and go up to chlorella and spirulina. You're really going to see the rainbow effect of vitamins and nutrients that they have in them. So again, we're talking about packing this in there on addition to your normal green intake for the day, right?
Yep. Okay, so if you say you don't have the money for juicing, cool, I got you. You can do smoothies. You don't have the time for smoothies? It's okay. We've got green powders. Green powders are readily available at almost any pharmacy, and they're just that. They take all the greens that you need and they dry them naturally, and then they crush them up in powder form. So the only thing with this is the most important, just like when he said when you're juicing, when you go to look for this, you really, really want to look for those organic labels. That's very important so that you know what you're getting and you're not putting any additional additives or anti-clumping or pesticides in your body. That's what we're trying to get rid of and push out of the body.
So you can always mix like the green powders with juice.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want to start off, if you are green powder, and like she said here, the juicing is maybe a little too much. I don't own a juicer. It seems a little complicated or above my head. That's fine. Don't have time for smoothies. And you're okay with green powder and water. Or maybe you do smoothies and you just prefer to have all of your greens in a powder. You can mix them in the same way. I was going to mention with the smoothies, and this kind of brings it back, if you start off and you're putting a lot of greens into the smoothie and it seems to be a little too bitter, or you can taste them, you can mix that out with a little bit more fruit, thin it out, maybe add a little water or a little coconut milk or almond milk in there, and thin it out a little bit. So the same goes with powders. You'll start with your powder in water if you're able to, and then if not, if you want it in a smoothie, then you can start it with your smoothie and mix it in that way.
Yep.
Yep. That'll conclude that one.
Yeah, so briefly we'll just touch on if you can't get past the taste of the powder, there's yet another way that you can get your greens, and that is actually just the green powder pills that they have. Same thing, you want to look for organic. But when you are shopping for your supplements, what you want to look for are the different grasses, such as barley, alfalfa, the cereal grasses, or the wheat. And then besides the grasses, you need those good algae. Those are the things that are really supercharging for your system. And those are spirulina, the blue greens, and the, I always say it wrong. Cholera.
Yeah, I'm probably saying it wrong. Who knows, right?
Hey.
I mean, there's another pronunciation somewhere for it.
But yeah, so we've got multiple options, and it's just a little bit, just add it into your everyday diet.
The pills, we were talking about there's juicing smoothies and on and on. The pills I find are the easiest for me. I'm okay with juicing. I love it, and we don't get to do it all the time as much as we would want to. Whenever we have an abundance from the garden, or we pull off greens from strawberries, as little as they are, we pull off greens off anything, we always use those. But I find that pills, instead of making a big glass of green water, the green pills, they just go down with water, they dissolve, everything's fine. There's no hidden chemicals, there's nothing crazy about it. It's all a veggie cap that they use, if that's what you're using. The difference being between the green pills and the powder is that you'll have to take more of a handful of green pills to get the same amount as in the powder, as you would imagine. So that's just about the only downside of using your pills compared to powder.
Yep. So there's just 5 different ways that you can start getting this into your diet. And even if you do a smoothie once or twice a week, that's going to be great for your health, and you will feel the difference. And I implore you, if you want to take a 7-day challenge,
That's what I was going, yeah.
to drink a smoothie once a day for 7 days and just add some greens in there. If you need to start off small and add more fruit for sweetness, that's awesome. But I guarantee at the end of that 7 days, you will feel a difference. You will have more mental clarity, you will have energy, you will just feel great. I like to call it fruit crack for me because it gets you so high on life and so pumping. I mean, you're just going to be out of this world focused, and the energy is outrageous. Nothing like what you would get from coffee. There's no crash or anything like that, and it's always benefiting your body.
Yeah, I've actually, she's out at 9 o'clock every night, right? And when it's harder in the winter, so when it comes to summer and we stay up on our routine and everything, she's up until 1 o'clock in the morning, driving me crazy because she's up running around doing this and painting that, and man, it really is. It's something very essential on top of your regular greens to just flood your system, and it is exactly what it's meant out to be. It's fruit crack.
So, okay, now we've told you a little bit about how to get your greens. So now we're going to tell you, this is the pharmacy part, the top 3 greens to start incorporating today to get the most out of your diet and your health itself. So the first one is spinach.
Spinach, yes. The number 1 on my list of greens when I first started. I remember watching the Popeye cartoons as a kid and seeing him squeeze this can of spinach, right? And it comes out and he eats it and he gets like super strong. And I was like, that's all you have to do. Like, no problem. I'll open up a can. And I hated spinach. And I didn't know what to do with it. Like, it was soggy and wet, and it wasn't what Popeye said it was supposed to be. So I wrote it off. It went into that bad category forever. And then it wasn't like 4 or 5 years ago, we start discovering food and getting a relationship with it. And I had spinach, and I couldn't believe the taste. It's got more of a texture to it. It's got a bite. It's got a wonderful flavor to it. So now, I mean, it's cut up and put fresh onto whatever meal, especially our pizzas. That's my favorite, yeah.
Yeah, so not only did Popeye get extra strength and energy from it, but I bet you didn't know he was fighting diseases and illnesses and his anti-inflammatory for being so strong and working against all those villains. And it also helps cardiovascular systems and bone issues, and it also prevents some cancers as well. So spinach is actually one of those superfoods that are around and you don't really hear about. So it is something besides just the nasty little side dish at dinner. You can do a lot of amazing things with it. And for smoothies, I definitely will say to start with spinach because you will not taste it at all in there. It does not have a bitter or really pungent flavor to it at all.
Okay, so getting off the Popeye kick, one more thing about it, right? the one thing that we want to emphasize, if we're going to have greens and we're going to be eating greens, obviously seeing it as a kid come out of a can and thinking it was great and it wasn't was very misleading. We always want to be with fresh, and we want to be local and organic when we can, and it doesn't get any more local than right outside your window, right outside your door. Okay, when we start getting into greens that have been in cans or that have been processed or packaged, that's when we get into, well, we're talking about anti-clumping. We get into added sugars, added cholesterol, added salts. And then it's not only just the green that you would be getting, like even for a meal. You're not going to get just the benefits of the green. You're going to get all the added chemicals and everything else that's in there. And that's what we're trying to steer away from.
Yes, definitely. Yes. I think that wraps up spinach.
I think so.
So then to take it up to the next step, we're going to take it to kale, which yes. I'm sure you have heard of. It has been everywhere on the news.
Or you've seen it as a garnish on the side, you know?
Right, yeah. It's that fluffy, ribbed lettuce that's on the side of the plates that nobody ever pays attention to. But so kale is actually amazing. Now it's got more of a bitter taste to it. So with kale, it's better to hide it in your smoothies and your juices because it'll break that down, or sauteing it will actually cook out that bitterness that it has. So it helps to lower your cholesterol, and actually just like last week, when we were talking about the different herbs that help your digestive tract, this does the exact same thing. It actually boosts your immunity, and it will get those detoxification molecules in your body that are there naturally. They'll get them to working again.
We were talking about kale as juicing, and we went in the juicing and all that too. But there's different ways of incorporating kale. There's baked kale chips with nutritional yeast and some salt on the top that we have recipes for. There's just cutting it up and braising it is what we've been doing actually here recently with the girls. We've been cutting it up and just throwing it in a skillet real quick with some garlic and just sauteing it up that way, still keeping it as fresh as we can. They just like the taste of the garlic. So you can really get out on the web. We'll put up some recipes and some different things on our Facebook site that we just got up. So you always want to be looking to maybe step out of the norm. You don't always have to just juice. You don't always have to just cook. There's different things to do out there with all this.
So the last one on our list, real quick, is spirulina, and that's going to be in those green powders and pills, and it is actually an algae. It is the #1 top on the plant kingdom for the highest form of protein and the highest benefits overall to cleaning out your body.
And we talked about protein before and it being easily absorbed. This is even less of a breakdown situation. This is already, spirulina cholera come in powders. So this is already broke down to almost liquid form for you. So it absorbs readily available, and it's always right there.
So that about wraps it up, and I just want to say that remember, prevention is the key to health and vitality. Don't let things happen first. Let's prevent them before they get too bad. And so again, I would just like to say for anybody that has any questions or specific ailments that you would like to know about or maybe need some recipes for, please get a hold of us. You can find us on Facebook at Homegrown Health 2014. And you can see our videos online as well. And we look forward to talking with you guys again. So we're going to send you over to the Sprouts Corner, and Taylor and Rowan are going to show you another recipe. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Welcome back to the Sprouts Corner. Today we're going to make our green smoothie. It's delicious and easy. Yummy. All we need is these 5 ingredients. kale, banana, cold water, raspberries, and oranges. Ew. Now we're gonna make the smoothie. We're going to put our oranges in. Now we're going to put our other orange in. Now we're going to blend it.